Welcome to Spectral Link Productions, where we take you behind the scenes, the making of our... Actually, scratch that. Today, we're not taking you behind the scenes of the making of our first independent CGI production, The Last Rite. Today, we're taking you behind the scenes of Whitemoon Dreams' War Machine Tactics. Our friends over at Whitemoon Dreams have been kind enough to allow us the use of their assets for purposes of tutorials and demonstrations. And so today, we're going to deal with a problem that I am volunteering to help them out with. So they were having some minor exporter issues, and I was helping them with their script when I realized, hey, you know what? I actually wrote an export script just like this with my son, who is going to school in San Francisco to study to be a TA and to do this kind of work. And since we had already written this script, why don't we go ahead and see if we can't use this for Whitemoon Dreams. So this is my son's script and Whitemoon Dreams assets. What we're going to talk about is how we're actually going to use this script. And the purpose of the script isn't nearly as important for purposes of this demo, but what's happening is that this character is referenced in, which means all these joints have namespace in them. Well, the engine that Whitemoon Dreams is using uses FBX to export out of Maya. This is true of both Unity and Unreal, and probably a few other engines as well. The problem with that is that FBX will bring the namespace with it, and we don't want that. We want to prune this off. What they were doing before is they would import in the rig, strip down everything but the joints, and that works, but it's very destructive. What's really handy is a non-destructive pipeline, and what I mean by non-destructive is one that doesn't destroy or damage your actual file, so that way you can iterate faster. You export, you test it in the engine, something's wrong, you go back to Maya, you tweak it some more, you hit export again, bada bing bada boom. If you have to import in the reference and delete stuff, then you have to reload the scene every time you want to do an edit, which slows things down. So non-destructive is way preferable. So let's take a quick look at my son's script that I helped him write. The script is going to be in two parts. The first is the Python part, and this is the bulk of the script. And there's a small mel part here which sets our FBX export options. The reason why this is in mel is because we could not find any Python support for the FBX plugin. If any exists, please let me know. I would love to learn more about this process, but we could only find support for mel for FBX, which is not a big deal. We wrote this little mel proc, and then in the Python script, we source the mel script in, and then when it comes time to call the mel script, right here at export FBX options, mel.eval, and that's where we call the command. So it's in two parts. So how do you bring a script into Maya? Well, the first thing you have to understand is you have to put the script in a place where Maya knows to look for scripts. If you don't put it in a folder that Maya already is aware of and is already expecting scripts, it can still work, but you have to give it the full path, and that can be very cumbersome, especially if you're trying to share it with other people. So you want to put it in a place that Maya is already expecting it. You can create a Maya env file to create your own paths, so you can dictate to Maya where it's going to go. But for the purposes of this demo, we're just going to put the scripts in a place that Maya already expects scripts to be. And that's going to be here under libraries. This will be under your name, libraries, documents, my documents, Maya, scripts. And so here's our FBX exporter.py for Python. And here's our create export options fbx.mel. All these other directories, my Maya will read because I have set up an env file that tells Maya about these directories. But by default, you won't have this. You'll just have the Maya scripts folder right here. And again, this will be your name, not my name, but you get the idea. So if you just pop them right in here in this folder, Maya should read it just fine. So pop them in there, start Maya, Maya should be able to find them. So now we want to source these. Now, as I mentioned before, here in the Python script is sourcing the mel script. So we don't really need to source the mel script. I'm going to do so for demonstration purposes, but just be aware that this is already being handled, so it's kind of redundant. So I'm going to come down here to the command line, and I'm going to click it so it goes to mel. Now the command to bring in a script from Maya so it can read it is source. So we are going to source create export options fbx dot mel, and now it's sourced. Now you didn't see anything happening because we haven't actually called any commands, but we also didn't get any errors either. Just for demonstrations here, let's say for example I misspelled this. So now I got an error here saying that it cannot find that script to source. It doesn't exist. Of course it doesn't exist. So if you tried to source your script and there was a problem with it, you will see big red errors popping up here. And that's how you source in a mel script. Now that mel script is ready for use. Any of the procedures that are within that mel script are available to be called. So if we look at that mel script, the command is set fbx option export options. Again, if I call this, we won't actually see anything because it doesn't put anything to the screen. But just to demonstrate, I'm going to call it, and I'm going to call it wrong. I'm going to call it, and I'm not going to put any parameters in here. And it says, look, wrong number of arguments. So it does understand what set fbx options are. I didn't call it correctly, so it's saying, Ant, you did it wrong. So if I give it the right parameters, which, again, it takes two integers, one for a start and one for an end. That actually should be floats, but that's all right. We'll deal with that. So we'll give it 1 and 26. And again, it doesn't really output anything to the screen, so it's hard to tell that it worked, but we didn't get any error messages. Okay, so that's mel. Mel's easy. Python is a little bit more tricky. So let's click it over here and switch it to Python. Now for mel, we said source. For Python, the command is import. And we will import fbx exporter.py. Sorry, no. We'll import fbx exporter. You don't have to add the .py. Hit enter, and again, we've not had any big red error messages, so we should be doing fine. So now, the command we want to call, down here at the bottom, is fbx exporter mjt. But if we just type fbx exporter mjt, and we'll give it something, test, it says that procedure is not defined. Well, we just sourced it. Did something go wrong with the sourcing? No, because when we sourced it, we sourced the module. This function is a function within the module, so we have to tell it what module we're calling, not just a function. Mel is more simple. There's some pluses and minuses to all that. With mel, it's possible for two different scripts to have the same procedure and they would start overwriting each other. With Python, each one is separated by what module it lives in, but that level of protection comes with a level of complexity. So in order to call it correctly, we have to go fbx exporter dot fbx exporter mjt. So that's the name of the module, followed by the command we're going to call. So now I'm going to run that, and it didn't like that either. Did I misspell it? Yes, I misspelled it. It would help if there was an X in there. Okay. We still got a big red error message, but the error message is that the script failed because I gave it bogus data. So the script is sourced in. So now what we want to do is to run the script, we got to give it the root joint of our character. So we're going to come around and we're going to go ahead and give it that. So now this should work. And it's thinking. By Bada bing, bada boom. And so we can check it. I got a fresh version of Maya here. I'm just going to go looking for that FBX. It's called test.fbx. And here we got just a skeleton. And he's running. There we go. So why is it just a skeleton? Well, this is an animation export script. All we want is the animation data. All that other stuff like geometry and skin data, that's just extra stuff that we don't need for this part of the export process. This should work just fine, and so it works. So again, just to reiterate, if I tab up here, we can see our previous commands. First, I imported the module. Then I said module, procedure, and then I passed the name of the joint I wanted to export. So let's make things just a tad bit easier for our friends over at Whitemoon. Let's go ahead and make this into a button click. So let's start by the first command. Put that right there. Then we have the second command. I'm going to come over here to Mel, and I said that we did not have to do this part, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway, because what I found is when you make these in the shelf buttons, if you don't source each one individually, then it crashes. So this isn't going to work. This is a Mel script and a Python script, but there is a way around that. And actually, if you look at the way our Python code is written, it's already right in there. So if we do that, this will import the ability to run mel commands within the Python script, and then we'll run mel.eval, which will basically say evaluate everything in here as if it's a mel script, and that mel script will be the source of our export options mel. And we should actually put that before we import that. Okay. So now we're sourcing all our commands and we're calling the exporter, but we still got a problem here because we don't necessarily know if this is the joint we want to export. So what we'll do is we'll very quickly create a string. Actually, it'll be a string array. I'll call it cell equals what Python's version of the list, and it's the same as Maya's, but we're going to have to do one more thing. We need to have Maya commands imported as well. So I'm going to import Maya commands, and then commands, because that's the module, and then that is the command, and then we'll simply say should be select equals true, and it's got to be capital T. Python syntax. If you don't do that, then it will complain. And so now we will say cell sub 0. Now if I did this right, the exporter will work with whatever is selected, and it will assume that we only have one thing selected. So it is making an assumption. So let's go ahead and test that. We'll just select it, and on your number pad, hit the enter key, and it works. And so we should be able to make that into a button. Let's come in here to our custom shelf, drag that up there, and there we go. So now we want to run that, select that, click the button, bada bing, bada boom. All right. So, just to reiterate, what have we done? We've learned how to source and run mel scripts. We've learned how to source and run Python scripts. And we learned how to make a shelf button with Python to make our script just a little bit easier. Pretty basic, I know, but you'd be surprised how often people overlook the basics. I myself have to look some of this stuff up myself because I've been programming in Mel for almost 2 decades now, but Python is very new to me. So I can do Mel in my sleep, but whenever I have to do Python, even I have to look some of this stuff up. So nobody can know everything. So covering the basics like this is always a good thing. So I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you all next time.